Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon, I'm joined by Aron O'Dowd, who's the blind podcaster, all the way from Ireland. And for those who are listening on my podcast, he's been on earlier, and we've had a chat. For those who have zoomed in on my YouTube, this is the first time we've done a video recording. But we're going to have a chat about business and networking and podcasting and just see where the conversation goes. So, how are you doing today, Aron? You okay?
I'm outstanding today, Michael. How are you?
Yes, I'm awesome as usual. So, I had you on my podcast when I was sort of early on into podcasting, I think. So we're talking about maybe May, something like that. No, June, I think it might be. And we talked a little bit about business and podcasting, and I know we covered a bit of sports and stuff. Um, Obviously, June, what we're in now, we're coming up to August now, 2 months later. What have you been doing in that time, Aron?
Yeah, life has been fantastic. Getting back to training and doing triathlon there. So training is kind of upped in the last probably 3-4 weeks. So I'm really excited to be back in the water, swimming, back on the bike, or should I say, getting back on the bike and running again. So that's been fantastic. I have a podcast show called the Aron O'Dowd Show, which I mentioned, and I'll be closing that in the next month and opening up a brand new show called Partially Excited. And it's going to be catered to a disability platform to allow individuals like myself to achieve their ultimate goal in business, networking, life, and so on. So that's what I've been up to, Mike.
Brilliant, brilliant. That sounds fantastic. So you're sort of going a bit more niche, if you like, with the podcast and with, if you like, some of the specialty areas that you should be able to help people with a lot more, because obviously you've been there, done it, you're experiencing it, and so you're looking to help other people and guide them through, achieving and doing whatever it is they want to do, but with their sort of disability or ability, which however you want to sort of call it, really, yeah.
Yeah, I have a passion for podcasting and I've been trying to figure out how to make it monetize and everything. And I realized that my passion is podcasting and I wanted to keep it pure and not having sponsors and ads. Yes, that's part of the business, but that just didn't feel right in my values. So I figured out how can I continue to do the interviews of everyone from the artist to the business to the athlete to whoever, but yes, create an income or a source of finance that could allow me to go out and do get more people and have more things on. Like everything, we need money. So I thought, look, I'm a guy who has a disability. I know everything about it, and let's make a platform where other people like me can bring their talents, their journey, their knowledge, experience, and do what they love doing. And that's kind of how the platform came about.
Yeah, brilliant, and this sounds great. It sounds to me like a good direction to go in. I think, like I said, it's difficult calling it a disability sometimes because I think in some cases, especially with yours, sometimes becomes an ability because having something unique about yourself and having something different is what really counts in this day and age because there's a lot of people putting a lot of content out there. So actually niching in and homing in on a particular area is key. And sometimes you've got to make the best of whatever situation you got or whatever ability you have. And I think, your ability as somebody who's been on your podcast is to really, be able to listen to people and understand people because maybe, you don't have the eyesight so well. So therefore you have better listening skills than most because of the compensation factor. And I think, that's why podcasting is a good outlet for you and continuing to ask good questions and listen is I think where you will really find a good gap in the market.
I totally agree. And you just point on something very interesting. We have two ears and one mouth. So that means we have to listen more than say what we say. And people forget, I have to listen. Like you and I are having a conversation. We need to listen what each other is saying. But like people, I think I need to get this point out and that point out. No, just sit back and listen, because you're going to find magic in the conversation when you sit back and listen. You could say something that could spark me off in a different direction, or I could say something too that could spark off in a completely different direction. We don't know what's going to happen the next 10, 5, 30 seconds later once we say 2, 3, 4, 5 words. And that's the love about podcasting for me, is that you're having a conversation either in your bedroom or in your sitting room, or for me, I had in the tent full of pots and pans around me to create the audio effect. I've been in a bedroom full of my mother's clothes around me to create the audio. But yet, at the end of the day, we can be so technically into what we do, but it's about asking questions, listening, and just enjoying the chats or the conversations.
Yeah, that's it. And they say it's good to talk, isn't it? And that's why, I don't plan my podcasts much. I try and keep them in a general direction, if you like, because there's certain things I like to talk about, and I like to find out about other people as a networker and a relationship builder and a communicator. Um, but yeah, I think it's important sometimes just to let the conversation go where it goes, and it just depends what people got on their mind, or what sort of things they have in common, and that you sometimes a topic comes up, and I like to go down that rabbit hole for a while and explore the person and the direction that the conversation has gone in.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. It's like being in a pub. You have a pint with someone, and you're going to talk about Newcastle playing Manchester United. That's on the TV, and 90 minutes later you'll be chatting about that a couple of hours later, and it's in your mind. And you'll go home and you say to the missus or the girlfriend or whoever is in the house, hey, gee, I watched Newcastle versus Man United. It was a great game, but I met Bob in the pub, and we chatted about what he was up to and everything. And that's the conversation you remember, except the match and the pint you have.
Yeah, yeah, and somehow we ended up talking about the universe, religion, and politics.
Yeah,
All those things you're not supposed to talk about. But I've been on some podcast episodes and gone down those rabbit holes, and I'll chat about anything. I got an opinion on most things, and so if somebody asks me a question or the conversation goes in a certain way, then let's just carry on talking and see where it goes.
I totally agree. And it's interesting. I was training with my guy, who's also my coach, and we were chatting about something. He said something very interesting, and I wrote a post yesterday. Is this too will pass? And I took it down because of various reasons. But when you have a conversation with you and it goes by, that will also too pass, and you'll go on to the next moment of your life, or the next thing you're going to do next, and you'll forget about that conversation until you're in bed at night time. Remember, I was chatting with Mike and we spoke about A, B, and C, and oh my God, it was amazing, and this is what we did. And that's the thing, is we're so busy at this moment in life that we think this too will pass means, oh, this person is down, but actually it's just a saying to say, look, you one minute you can feel high, next minute you can feel low, but that feeling just passes.
Yeah, 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 definitely. So yeah, how is training then? Being blind or partially sighted or difficult to see, etc. Do you have to do training on fixed equipment, or are you able to go out and ride, say, for example, in the real world?
Yeah, if anyone hasn't listened to the first podcast, I'm a triathlete. Used to be a rower, so a triathlete is it's a 750-meter swim, 20K bike, and a 5K run. So they're all with a guide. So what what would happen is I and the guide would be side by side by a rope,
Okay,
and
on the
we
on the bikes, yeah, when you're on bikes.
yeah, and then on bike
Brilliant.
on bike would be a tandem. Swimming, we're swimming side by side, and running, we're side by side. So swimming and running, we're using a rope
Yeah,
to
okay.
to do it. But what I found out recently, if I when I want to go race on the national team or international, I have to wear a pair of goggles that actually creates no light through the goggles to create a fair playing ground, because you can have someone that could have full sight, partially sight, medium
Yeah,
sight, or no sight at all. So but in the apartment, I have a turbo, a bike on the turbo, and I have an iPad, so I connect to an app called Trainer Road, and I type in my sessions, and I go away and spin whatever the session requires with music and on Zoom, and it's fantastic. It's being able to adapt to what you have around. If I hadn't had the bike in the apartment, I'd have gone crazy. That's kind of my saving grace through this lockdown that's gone by.
yeah. Well, my bike has been, one of my When you do your gratitude every day or whatever, my bike is definitely one of those things that have helped me through the lockdown period because I've been going out every day, for at least sort of 45 minutes or an hour, and listening to some audio, personal development audio books at the same time as well. And I love that time to, get fit and get learning all at the same time.
Yeah, and we all have the capacity to to lose weight, gain muscle. It's just all systems at the end of the day. It's skill. What makes different sports different is just skill set. But strength and conditioning is the same. Nutrition is the same. Supplementation is still the same. Sleep is the same. But skill set is what makes the athlete different from sport to sport. And that's what I'm kind of loving at the moment, is learning the skill set of swimming, biking, and running, because I've come back from a rowing background where it's a complete different skill set. But I'm currently enjoying the turning your shoulder in a 45-degree angle in the swim, and it's fun. But yet I hate being in the cold water, and that's been the fun thing. But a year ago, when I was kind of making the transition, I was about 10 kg overweight, and I popped into my suit there on Monday to go swimming so I could get into the water quicker. And I realized, gee, this suit feels a little easier to get in than before. And lockdown has been great to focus on things I wouldn't have focused on in the past, because I'm so focused on getting the session done. I got to get the next session done. I got the next session done. That's what I was constantly thinking about. But with lockdown, I got to think about, okay, this is how I'm eating. This is how I'm sleeping. How can I make it better? How can I, not paint the cracks in that has cemented perfectly for the next time this happens, or the next time I go back out and race. I've actually built a more sturdier foundation than before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when you say, I was just going to ask you, you said when you go back out and race or whatever. I was going to ask you, have you started racing yet, or when do you next race?
It's like everything. We see a race, great, we'll enter it, and then a couple of weeks time that race will go down. So we're thinking maybe September, but September may change. So at the moment, the landscape is constantly changing. The World Championships in Montreal are being talked about, but that could change. So it's a very, like, the triathlon season starts about maybe March to maybe September, and I don't know after that. I may be wrong or not, but that's what I've been told. So I don't know. But look, I'm just enjoying training and learning. I feel like if I race, I'll get a good time, but competitive, I don't know. So I'm only probably a year into the sport. I still have a little bit more work to do, but once I master that work, it'll be happy days, and then focus about racing then. But that's where I see myself.
Yeah, and do you have a sponsor to help you with like traveling to go to different events and that, or is that what you're looking for?
No, so Triathlon Ireland has a sponsor with a couple of sponsors. I don't know the sponsor, but they're pretty big sponsors, and they help fund the program. So how funding works is it's like anything, it's on a performance basis. So since there's no racing at the moment, they're focusing on training. So like, what's the training performance stats? And if there's no training performance stats, then they're thinking like, why should we fund you? And that's the reason why training now is becoming so important, and getting stats out every week, because we're showing the sponsors to say, look, we have athletes training, they're performing, here are their stats, and so on. So the sponsors saying, actually, yeah, we can actually continue funding this team because they're showing different particular stats and numbers to say they are training at this rate, at that as well.
Yeah. So this, because obviously the sponsor wants success, I suppose, because success increases notoriety, and so they want to know whether you're on game form, if you like, so that when the competitions start again, you're going to be in a chance of winning, and they're going to be in with a chance of being in the press.
That's so true. And even though there's not a lot of sport happening at the moment, a lot of the organizations are looking about anti-doping, performance, funding, etc. now, because there's no competitions or races at the moment. So like, what's the next stage to look at? It's more the fundamentals of the organization to make it better as at this moment.
Yeah, can't you, as a podcaster and that, can't you, for example, you've got your beach background, I've got my podcast background on at the moment. It says You Can't Do It, which is obviously the name of my podcast. And can't you, for example, put the sponsors brand on the back and have conversations with the other athletes and that sort of thing, and maybe try and add some added value into what you're doing on behalf of the sponsors?
That's a great idea, Mike. I don't have an answer for that right now, but I'll ask the coaches and see what they come up with and see if it's a yes or a no. But that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think, if you had, for example, so I'm thinking about putting a sponsors board on, like a football team. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
creating like a sponsors board with some of my companies on and some of my partners in business and stuff. So put it on as a branding board, if you like, and then have that as the background for all my podcasts, and then charge people for that. So I'm always looking at ways of monetizing the podcast. I also I use Anchor for my podcast, and I've signed up to the sponsorship thing where I play like an advert. It's like 2-minute advert before each episode. And when people click on that or listen to that, it adds money to your account. I think I've made something like $8 or something so far since I added it on a few weeks ago. But I can't get paid out at the moment because at the moment you've got to be in America. You've got to have an American bank account, which I don't have. But I'm just hoping that the money will build up, and then eventually when because they say they're going to add the account on to international soon. So I'm hoping I can just transfer the money once it's built up, and I can put my account in. Or failing that, at some point I'll have to just try and find a way of registering an American bank account if it builds up to a certain amount and I want to get it out.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, no, there are always answers to questions. You just need to figure out how to ask the right question, and the idea will kind of come out and happen.
Yeah, that's right. And another thing I'm looking at as well, I don't know if you looked at that or not, is Pantheon. It's like
Oh
a
yes,
subscription service.
yeah. I
Yeah.
totally know it. I don't have to implement it, but I know a lot about it, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I've set up an account and everything, and I'm still in the process of setting it up. But I know quite a few podcasters do use it, and I think you can put unique content onto it and get people to pay a subscription so that they only get that unique content if they're paying the subscription. So you can sort of produce, extra content than what you're doing for free. Use the free content to drive the traffic to the paid for subscription. Then.
Wow, excellent. While we're kind of bouncing ideas, I during lockdown I couldn't get out and have a guide because of different reasons. So I came up with this idea of where you pop on a pair of goggles that connects to the optic nerve or the nervous system in some way. I don't know the medical side of it yet, but I'm searching for people to understand the medical system. And what you do is you pop the pair of goggles on, it connects with the eyes and the nervous system, and it allows you to see the 3D world as someone that has fully sight will be able to see. And I think it's a fantastic idea because we're all getting old and we're all losing some element of sight over our lifetime. But in my circumstances, I've been losing vision since the age of 7, and I wish that this pair of technology is around that I could use. And I thought, look, let's create it and see what happens. And I think it'd be a cool idea where you just pop a pair of glasses on and you could hop in a car and drive. I know self-driving cars are coming around, but it'd just be cool to just hop in, drive instead of someone driving for you. And I thought, gee, if a pair of glasses could do that for anything, the whole world is open then.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like a great idea. And, ultimately, if you've seen the vision of that and nobody else has invented it, I don't know whether that exists or not. I do know there's arms that you can control from your nervous system and stuff. So that, to me, it sounds like, the technology may well be possible. I think it's just a case of maybe contacting a few sort of scientific tech type businesses and maybe giving them the idea and contacting a few people, asking if you put it out there to all the people through networking, then somebody sooner or later will probably know somebody who might be able to direct you in that way. Obviously, for the people who haven't caught our earlier episodes, we've met in the Outstanding Network, which is a network that used to meet daily at the start of lockdown and now meets 3 times a week. And obviously, we know quite a lot of people through networking that way. I do a lot of networking elsewhere as well. And I've actually recently joined up with a guy who's a virtual power networker globally, and he does a lot of networking on WhatsApp via WhatsApp groups, and he's got a lot of groups, to do with like fintech and biotech and all sorts of things. So, now you've said that to me, I can reach that out to him and see if there's somebody that he knows globally in that sort of tech space that you're talking about that may be able to have that conversation with you about what's available at the moment, what vision you see, what you think the product, the glasses needs to be, and maybe we might be able to find somebody who can help you with that goal and that vision,
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because I think we're entering an age now where it's about biotech now. Like the nervous system moves 122nd way faster than any processing chip on the planet. So I do feel, we're learning about our systems, but I do feel, we're technically a supercomputer looking to make artificial intelligence, but actually we are artificial intelligence in a way that we don't actually know the full mechanics of our body. And it's just, I think if we tap into that ability to take a disability to make an ability through the mechanics that we have already with technology, I feel, any possibility can be happen. I know stem cell, gene therapy, they're all great therapies, but they're still in incubator stage where they're still trying to understand the mechanics of the science about if someone's injected with a steroid or a gene or a particular stem cell, what actually physically happens. So we're biotech, I think, is the way it's going to go, where you just, like I say, pop a pair of glasses on, you can see normal vision, pop a
yeah.
pair of glasses off, and you're back to the vision that you don't have.
Yeah, well, that's it. There's definitely people already who are walking now using sort of biotech that were able to walk before, and there's people who are using arms and like I say, using their brain and different and muscles and stuff, and to make things happen. So it's all, I think it's all possible. It's just a case of having the vision, like you've had now, and what a great vision to have is to give people vision. That's a good vision to have, isn't it? It's a great vision, and I think if you're passionate about anything enough, there's enough people on the planet who, somebody like what's his face, Tesla guy, Elon Musk, somebody like that might want to take it on as a project to do. There's lots of people like that who've made a lot of money using tech and then want to, invent and create and help other people.
And that's my point earlier in our conversation here, is that I don't, I didn't know that you may have someone that could help me. I just said this is what I'm doing, and the conversation flows, and wow, here we go. And that's where the magic is. For the last probably couple of months, I've been learning about different things and relating to my own personal development. And we forget that we are magical beings. We get, with our excitement, we are able to throw some magic that's like, oh my God, they gave me this and I was able to do this and that happened, and you're excited. People think it's manifesting, but I do think manifesting is the magic. We throw the seed out there, the seed grows and it becomes the magic, and then manifests into something that we want to happen, and that's what we're doing. But we need to be concrete in what are our core values, what do we value in order to make that happen, how do we truth, and then the action we're going to take to make that happen. Because people think, I manifest A, B, and C and it's going to happen tomorrow. No, it takes time and effort, where you roll up the sleeves and you get your hands dirty and then put the dough in the oven and it comes out as a pizza, and that's what magic is.
Yeah, well, we both into communication, if you like. I've been, the art of communication, which is why we both podcasters and networkers and all of that. And I think it's quite important myself. I think it's important to communicate with yourself and your own subconscious, so what you want, and your subconscious knows what you want. And I think it's also important to communicate to the universe, whether that's to a greater power, or whether that's just to people in the universe, because everyone in the universe has energy, and sometimes if you don't put anything out, then how can anything come back? But if you put something out, so whether you put it out communicated in communication to other people, or you put it out there to the universe and the universe takes care of it, whatever, you can only put that out there by letting people know, by communicating and actually letting people know, including yourself, what it is actually you want in life and want to achieve.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You, I'm going to use myself as an example here, but I am the creator or the stopper of what I want to achieve, in the sense of I hold the brake and I hold the accelerator at the same time. And I had this conversation with someone there a few weeks ago about this on my own podcast, about how you hold the brake and you hold the accelerator, and you choose, do you want to stay in neutral in the driveway, or do you want to put it in gear and accelerate and make that happen? And it's all your choice in doing what you want to do. So people say, oh, I'm stuck, I'm not good. You've chosen in your own story to be that way. And yes, you can just like flicking on a switch and you're home for a light to pop up. That's the same thing way as well in your mind. You have the ability, but sometimes we just get so stuck in our own story of the fact that I'm this, I'm that, whatever it is, that we may not see the light. And that's where I think mentors come in to educate us and show us the look, you're stuck, but yes, you have the capacity and the ability to change that in a millisecond.
Yes, right. I'm listening to a Les Brown audio book at the moment, and Les Brown basically says that if you don't like the movie you're in, and you're not the star of the show, well, we're all responsible for writing it. We wrote the show, we started it, we produced it. And if we're not the star of the show, and we're not in the movie that we want to be in, then sometimes you've got to turn around and say, okay, well, enough of that. I don't want to live that movie anymore. I'm going to write a new movie, and I'm going to make myself the star of the show, and I'm going to make myself, the movie that I want to be in, and I'm going to, I'm in control of producing the movie that I want. So if you're trapped in a life in a script that you don't like, well, there's only one person who can change it, and that's the person who's responsible for writing, producing, and directing the movie of their life.
Yeah, this is our movie and this is our life, but we get so ingrained in the need money, need this, that we become, it's like a video game. I played a lot of video games when I was young, and we're in a video game in some way where we can up a level or down a level, and we're, like you just said, the actor, the producer, the editor, the production company, we're all it, but we don't see that unless we get a mentor, someone like Les Brown. He's an amazing guy who can show us through his videos and his book to say, look, you can change it in a split second.
Yeah, definitely. Because what I find is, which happens a lot in video playing as well, but I find there's a lot of people in life, if you like, they get up a level and then they get to the end of a level and then they don't know what to do. So like when you got a crazy character who you got to the end, but you just don't know how to get through to the next level. So you just like banging against the wall or banging against the screen or running up and down or spinning around, and you're like, how do I finish? How do I get to the next level? And I think that's what so many people get stuck at the end of the first level or a couple of levels up, and they want to keep going, but they're just stuck and they're spinning around and they just don't know how to finish the level.
I totally agree. That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
Yeah, I used to play a lot of games myself, and you see the character doing crazy things at the end, and you're like, just how do I get through, or what do I do, or stop spinning around, you crazy character, and do something. Yeah. So,
or
yeah.
or against other people, like, don't shoot me, don't kill me, and just don't overtake me, just let me stay here. And then it's like, no, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's it. So so you're busy keeping yourself fit then, and obviously working your way up to competing again at a new sport. What other sort of plans do you have for as things start to loosen up and the lockdown is getting more and more looser? What other things are you thinking about trying to achieve and do with your time and your life?
So I'm kind of outside of sport and training and competing. I'm really interested in getting this disability platform partially excited up and running, because I do feel that I've communicated and been in a lot of disability groups, and I understand the problems, and I would like to present a situation where the barrier is taken away, where if someone wants to go bungee jumping, they can go and do it, instead of saying, oh, I am blind, I can't go bungee jumping, and because of this, there's just jargon of crap that they're stopping themselves do their dream in some way. So I like to have this platform to present, say, look, here are the tools that, if your child was diagnosed with a blindness, here are the tools that they can do to live a life. More it's about the lifestyle than the cure. And
Yeah.
that's big, because people get so, parents, because my parents have two children, including myself and my sister, who are visually impaired from the age of 7, and their biggest thing at one time was to find a cure, because they wanted us to see the world the way it was. But actually they realized it's more about the lifestyle. And we got to learn that in the likes of America and Taiwan, the fact that in Taiwan and more taught us about the lifestyle of living than finding the cure. That, yeah, I'll lose my sight, but there are ways of getting around, ways of living. And that's why I want to incorporate in the world of disability, to be in a place, say, look, you want to ride from London to Beijing in a tandem? Sure, here's a tandem designed from, someone like Ferrari or McLaren, to say, look, go do it. So I want to make the impossible possible for a disabled person. If they want to live by themselves in the house with other disability people, there you go, there's the opportunity. So I'm really kind of building a network and a platform for the area of disability to inspire and create a voice in the world to say, look, society stops people being disabled, or stops people in the world of disability, but actually they have the ability to do everything. But unfortunately, the narrative of society has developed them to say, look, you're disabled, you can't do it, you can't get a job, you can't have a degree, you can't have all this. It's bullshit, and that's what annoys me, the fact that, I may have a PhD in mathematics, and I may be doing the most crazy thing in calculus, but yes, if I go get a job, say, oh no, you're blind, you can't get a job because of health and safety. I want to stop that and say, look, I am as able as any mathematician on the planet that can do anything, because it's just my eyes are affected, but yet I have the technology to be able to do what I want to do. And that's what Partially Sight is all about, is to create an outstanding individual that, yeah, you're disabled, but that's just a physical component of who you physically are. You have a mind, you have a body, you have a spirit. Yeah, your body is compromised, but you still have the capacity to use the mind. You still have capacity to be inspired, to have that spirit, and throttle to full max, the same way you see horses race on a track. They're all the same horses, just different breeds, but they do the exact same thing. We're all humans. Someone may have a missing hand or a missing arm, or can't see, or motor cirrhosis or autism. They're still individuals, they're still humans, they're still able to have the capacity to do what they want to do. So that's kind of my big project at the moment, is to combine all the strengths of the able-bodied world. When I say able-bodied world, means everyone that does not have a disability, but I think that's incorrect, because we all during life get a disability at some stage. When you get older, you lose parts of your vision, or you may have arthritis, or you may have problems with your hands or whatever. We all can become disabled in a millisecond due to the environment that around us, because we all interact with a dangerous world out there, and we don't know what will happen. But in someone that has diagnosed with a disability, it's to take that word disability and put it to a way where it's, I'm able, I can see, I can do, I can feel. And I got this idea a couple of years ago, but just didn't have the momentum in my life to make it a reality. And now I feel that lockdown has presented that ability to say, look, people are wearing masks, how can I interact with someone that's social distancing or has a mask on? How can someone that's in a wheelchair, how can they, get around if someone's social distancing? These are all problems that the world's faced right now, but yet they have been a problem for, let's say a couple of decades. But yet now, like with the Black Matters, the coronavirus has brought everything to the surface to create change. And I feel that this is the right time and the right moment to be doing this type of project, because I feel, like for me, I'm visually impaired / blind. I use an app called Be My Eyes, and I'm able to chat to someone across the world and say, look, is this beans? Yeah, this is beans. Great, this is beans. I hang up and I'm able to put beans in the microwave and make my beans. So
Yeah.
I want to combine companies like that and people around the world, and to create this platform to allow someone to know, because I feel the area of disability is a little bit gray area, in the fact that you know some stuff if you go googling, but if you don't go googling, you won't find out about apps or services like that. And I feel, organizations, yes, that's their role to do, but they're so knee deep in their own organization that sometimes they forget the next chain of the service, in sense of someone learns how to use the long cane, how can they get mobility, how can they get on the bus. But yes, the organization's job is to just get them the basic skills. I want to get them from the basic skills to the outstanding skills where they can create businesses. I interviewed a guy a couple of years ago. His name's Mark Pollock, and he's totally blind. He rode for Ireland. He did adventure racing, Ironmans. He ran the North Pole. But there in 2010, he fell out of he was sleepwalking. He fell out of a 2-story apartment and broke from his spine from his shoulders down. And his goal is to walk. And I've interviewed him. Him and I chat, and there's a guy who's disabled, but he wants to walk, and that's what he's doing. There's another amazing business guy called Stephen Wynn, who has the Wynn Hotels in Las Vegas. He has the same visual impairment that I have. His father gave him the hotel business, and I was listening to there on the Tony Robbins podcast about how he was raving about the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas. There's a guy who's totally blind, and he's one of the biggest hotel brands in Las Vegas. So that's what I want to bring, and I'm really excited to do the next year.
Yeah, yeah, and like what you said then, they call it disabled or enabled and that sort of thing. But I find the vast majority of abled people, if you like, are disabled by fear. They're disabled by they have their own disability, if you like, and so sometimes if you've got what the world defines as a disability, but you still aren't disabled by fear, then you can actually achieve a lot more in your life, because you haven't got the disability of fear, than the people who are so-called able-bodied, but they actually got one of the biggest disabilities of life, and that's the fear to actually change their situation and to do anything in their life of any value, because they're just frightened to do it,
Yeah, and I meet people on a regular basis, and they say, "Oh my God, Aaron, you're so inspiring," and this and that, and I'm thinking, why am I so inspiring? And I've been asking this question for years, and you just stumbled across it there. It's fear. People are in their own fear, and they don't think it's fear. But when they see someone that is comparatively see 2 feet in front of them, going swimming, going running, and do all these amazing things, like, oh my God, he's inspiring. But actually, I'm inspiring because I'm inspiring myself, and it's extracting through my skin to the other individual that's experiencing through an energy exchange, and it's saying, wow, he's inspiring. But actually, we're all inspiring, but yes, the energy that's emulating from me to you is showing that this guy's passionate, he's inspirational, whatever. And we all have that.
Yeah, 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 definitely. You just got to unlock it within you. But yeah, as we are networkers, as you were telling me about what you were doing then with the disability side of things, that sprung two people who I've had on my podcast to mind. One's a guy called Damien Joseph Bridgman, and he is like a disability rights activist and that sort of thing. And
Okay.
he works with the Welsh government on lots of disability projects, etc. But he's also an inspirational coach and leadership coach and that sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
he's in a wheelchair, so I don't know what I can't remember exactly what he's got wrong with him. I think he's got like when you're born and you have a deficiency, and then it turns you into I don't know. I don't know. He's got a disability anyway. Where he's been in a
Okay.
wheelchair all his life. Can't remember
Okay.
exactly which disability, but he does a lot. He has a very productive life and that sort of thing. So I think he definitely would be somebody who could potentially help you in that. In what you're trying to do, trying to achieve, and he helps get people funding and that as well from Wales. I don't know if he can reach outside of that. So that's somebody I should connect you with. And then somebody else I need to connect you with as well, who I've had on my podcast, is a chap called Mark Colburn.
Okay.
So Mark Colburn is a Paralympic athlete, gold medal winner at London 2012.
Mhm.
He was paragliding when he was not disabled. He was paragliding, and the paragliding thing got caught up in wind or whatever, and he fell. He fell from the air onto a beach and was
Mm.
disabled. He broke his spine, I think, or something like that. No, so he had some issue anyway. He was disabled, and then he was able to cycle. So this was
Oh yeah.
like 3 years before the London 2012s or something. He was into
Mhm.
sports and stuff beforehand, played a bit of, I think, volleyball or some other stuff. Anyway, he had this, accident, decided he wanted to, after being depressed for a while in hospital and everything, decided, I think his father told him to shape up sort of thing. And then he decided that he was going to go into the cycling. I think he was on a cycle charity ride one day, and somebody said he'd be good, as a Paralympic athlete, and ended up going down that route. And then he won gold at London 2012 in his 40s. It was his chance. He broke the world record, I think. And yeah, he's a great guy. And really inspirational. He's a big speaker around the world and stuff for FTSE companies. I think he speaks for Rolls Royce and people like that. He's a really good guy. So I should introduce you to both of those, really.
I'll tell you a funny story, Mike. So in our family, I have our uncle is a little older, and he's probably 5% vision. The guy is 6'3" in height, and he used to train in the University of Limerick gym, and the guy broke every weight machine in the whole gym, and bikes included. The guy was a monster guy. He could leg press 500 kg for 20 sets.
Yeah, yeah,
And the monster rugby around him were thinking, the players were walking Genie like, who's your man? Why is he lifting? How is he lifting 500 kg reps for 20? And everyone's asking the instructors like, who's your man? Well, he's Stephen O'Dowd. He's this, that, and whatever. So the rugby lads thought he was on steroids, lifting that amount of weight, but it was just pure water and motivation and inspiration. And the guy is a monster. He's like he's lost a lot of weight now, but he could he's toured the world on a tandem with the Blazing Saddles here in Ireland, who's with a charity for people to be able to cycle around the world on a tandem. And yet the guy can lift 10 times his 15, 20 times his body weight.
yeah,
And that's inspiration. And the reason I tell you this story is because that's a huge indication, because this guy is determined. You tell him he'll set a goal. I want to lose from 130 kg to 85 kg. He'll do it. And you give him a year, give him the right tools, the right systems, and he'll achieve it. And he did achieve it. And I think that's quite amazing how an individual that determined, and we all have it, where you can lift 20 times your body weight because you're determined to do it. You get up every morning, you're going to do it.
yeah,
And that's what the success of life is turning up, doing it every day. Yeah, you may be tired. Yeah, you may want to, not go out because it's raining. But that's where the success happens, is turning up every day in a routine, doing what you want to do. You may have experience of that didn't work out, whatever. Like with my podcast, I started off recording my very first episode, and it was a mess. I couldn't get the microphone working. Skype wouldn't work. Then I eventually got recording, and then I had dogs barking in the background. And then I went into into a closet with clothes around, or to grab the sound, and then went into a tent with pots and pans and yes, I was doing that because I was so inspired and passionate about podcasting. This guy, who's my uncle, he's passionate about sports and training and being right and living right. And yet, when you look at his life, you feel like, gee, why is he living that way if this guy is so inspired? And yes, we've mentioned on this, we all have the choice. Sometimes the choice may be circumstance to what our ability is. We may be we have the most ability on the planet, but yet we maybe in a situation financially where we can't do it or whatever, but we may rely on the family members, the people around us to continue bobbing above water. And yes, we don't see the other components because we're so narrow minded, because we want to be determined and do that. And in the last 2 or 3 months since we last spoke, I've been really digging deep into the psychology to understand the individual, because it helps me in one hand, but also helps me understand, if I'm going to do work with people who are disabled, how do you get them, what is the psychology and understanding. I think that's so important, as well in sport, but physically and mentally we all have a working mind. And I think that's what makes us amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd love to carry on our conversation all day, because I always find it a great chat. But unfortunately, I've got another Zoom call
Where did-
and another podcast. I'm working hard at the moment myself on getting that content out. So although I'd love to carry on forever and just keep chatting positivity and uniqueness and all of that, I think this is a good opportunity now just to leave it there. But thank you very much again for coming on my podcast and for sharing the outstanding you with my audience and my listeners and my YouTube watchers. This will be the first time this goes out on YouTube, but I'll send you a link for you to listen to that, I suppose, and obviously I'll put it on the podcast as well. And just thanks very much for coming on, Aron.
Thank you so much, Mike. You're an amazing what you do, and you're a bundle of energy. As I described my own podcast, the Duracell Bunny, and that's who Mike is, and he's doing an amazing job. So tune into his podcast, and also tune into mine, Partially Excited, which will be opening next month. And Mike, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yes, brilliant. All right then. Well, there's nothing else left for me to say now other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening.